The Philippine military accused the Chinese Coast Guard of ramming and then boarding the Filipino boats in a violent confrontation in the contested waters of the South China Sea on the 17th of June. The Philippines' top military commander, General Romeo Bronner, said that the Chinese Coast Guard were armed with swords, spears, and knives in the incident off 2nd Thomas Shoal. Denouncing the Chinese action as piracy, he demanded the return of seized weapons and other equipment, as well as reparations for damaged items. Beijing described the conduct of its personnel as professional and restrained, further adding that they were aiming to block an illegal transportation of supplies. Monday's incident is the latest in a series of escalating confrontation between Chinese and Philippine ships in recent months. Our next report tells you more.
Tropa natin yun?
This is the footage released by the Philippine military, which shows a brazen act of aggression by Chinese Coast Guard towards Filipino Navy personnel in the South China Sea. Two Chinese vessels approached a small Philippine vessel from either side, while another Chinese boat tailed closely behind. Soon after, Chinese Coast Guard personnel from 8 vessels, wielding swords, spears, knives and a hand axe, boarded the rigid-hulled inflatable Philippine boats. Reportedly, the encircled Philippine personnel used their bare hands to fight off the Chinese Coast Guard. One Filipino soldier lost a thumb when his vessel was rammed.
And so we're deeply concerned about the injuries suffered by this Philippine sailor, obviously wishing him the best in terms of his recovery. But more critically, to your question, this kind of behavior is provocative, it's reckless, it's unnecessary, and it could lead to misunderstandings and miscalculations that could lead to something much bigger and much more violent. It's imperative that the rightful legal maritime claims by the Philippines are respected, by the PRC and by everybody else for that matter.
After visiting the injured soldier, General Bronner said that the Chinese took guns and other equipment, destroyed equipment on board, including the motors, and proceeded to puncture the Philippine boats. The skirmish happened as the Philippine Navy was delivering supplies to Filipino troops stationed in the 2nd Thomas Shoal. A defiant Beijing, though, dismissed the allegations, claiming that its personnel were aiming to block an illegal transportation of supplies.
The Filipinos were absolutely not carrying out the resupply of humanitarian items. Philippine boats not only tried to sneak in building materials, but were also smuggling in military equipment. They also deliberately rammed Chinese boats. In addition, Philippine personnel poured water and threw objects at Chinese administrative staff. These actions clearly escalated tensions on the sea and seriously threatened the safety of Chinese personnel and ships.
2nd Thomas Shoal hosts a tiny Philippine garrison stationed on a deliberately grounded, decrepit warship. The handful of Philippine soldiers stationed there require regular rations. Beijing has routinely attempted to block Philippine resupply missions to the shore, employing dangerous maneuvers such as shadowing, blocking, and firing water cannons, and instead blames Manila of violating international law.
The Renai Reef is part of China's Nansha Islands. It is Chinese territory. The Philippines intruded into the sea around the reef without seeking China's permission. This violated international law and the spirit of the Code of Conduct for all parties in the South China Sea. It was frankly an unreasonable provocation.
China claims almost the entire South China Sea and has repeatedly sought to assert its sovereignty. But China and Philippines are not the only claimants of this strategic waterway. Brunei, Malaysia, Vietnam and Taiwan also have overlapping claims to this major global trade route, believed to be sitting atop rich undersea deposits of oil and natural gas. With both Manila and Beijing accusing each other of being the agent provocateur, the recent escalatory actions have undermined regional peace and stability.